We're live, brother. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. It has been a bad week, and it started last Thursday with the Cowboys lost, and then the Longhorns going into Fayetteville and getting an ass whooping there, and then turn around on Sunday. I didn't even have anybody playing on Monday night. Fantasy football go 0-1. I think you won this week in fantasy football, so it was a rough week, and it just seems like it's been long. I know you've had a long week at work as well. That's why I think we didn't wind up doing a show on Monday. Same here, but it's nice. I just want to get this bad taste out of my mouth. And what better way to do it is do a Thursday Night Live, talk pregame, talk about probably a little bit about, Casey Thompson, talk a little bit about Pete Kwiatkowski's defense, and I think what to expect from a defensive side of the ball. Talk a little bit of Rice in Texas and kind of see where it goes in the comments.
Yeah, you described it as a bad week. Yeah, normally when I have we have a loss, it's a hangover, right? It lasts through Sunday and some of Monday, but this one stings really, really bad. Like you said, it's been hard to watch film. It's been hard to listen to the pundits on social media, on sports radio, talk about this Texas team since Saturday night's debacle / massacre / whatever you want to call it in Arkansas. But hey, you got to turn the page, man. In pro team sports, you got to take the losses and learn from them and get better. That's all you can do. You can't, worry about or rest on your laurels or mourn like we do, because you got to go to practice on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday to get ready for Rice. So I'm excited for 7 o'clock on Saturday night to get back on the football field, so this team has an opportunity to make a good account for this.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking at us, but I also want to kind of look at Arkansas as they move forward. I'm not sure who they play this weekend. I know they get Texas A&M September 25th, I believe, is maybe their next big game. But definitely kind of excited to kind of see where they go through the year and how they finish. So kind of going from there, man. Thoughts on Casey Thompson starting this game? Again,
going into the season, hindsight's 2020. I know that me and you felt that Casey Thompson coming to the fall camp. We talked about it on our arms race, where you took Casey's credentials and talked about him, and I took Hudson's credentials and talked about him. And at the end of that video, we talked about how we felt that Casey Thompson was going to win the quarterback job headed into fall. And then late into fall's camp, you heard the talk of Hudson Card taking the job. All Casey Thompson has done when he plays between the white lines is score points. Like every time he's on the field, he puts the ball in the end zone or gets them in field goal range and they kick a field goal. So in my mind, the kid said it himself. He trusts himself. Steve Sarkisian made this move. Casey Thompson was always going to play in game 1 and game 2. It sounds like Hudson is going to still maybe get playing time behind Casey. But I'm excited to see what this kid can do, because he's proved it on the football field. Like every time he gets the ball in his hands, the team moves down the field and scores. Or he at least moved to the 50-yard line to put the opposing team in bad field position.
Yeah, I think it comes down to decisiveness, and we'll get into a little bit of that. I have some numbers from Pro Football Focus I want to bring up. It's about decisiveness, and there's two plays I kind of want to go back to when we're looking at this Arkansas game, and I don't want to go too much back into the Arkansas game, but I want to bring up two plays. There was a 3rd and 11. I think it was 3rd and 6. Wound up getting a false start penalty, if I'm not mistaken. It puts it at 3rd and 11. And this was the play right before the debacle with the punt, the drop punt. And if you go back and look at it, and I'll get into the numbers. He goes back specifically to that play. Again, they're rushing 3 guys. I think you had 5 offensive linemen, 2 offensive linemen were blocking 1 guy. You had 2 of them that were double teaming 2 players, and then the other one, I think it was Majors was 1-on-1, I think, with the nose guard. And there was space. There was space for days. And then you kind of look around and you see Bijan over to the right-hand side of the screen, and you kind of scroll back a little bit. You see that there's probably 12, 13 yards between Bijan Robinson and the next defender. You know what I'm saying? And that's one play. And that was Hudson Card. And then you go back to the first play when Casey Thompson came into the game in the second half. The first play was actually hey, look at me, Jordan Whittington. Brewer had a guy lined up on him. I think Xavier Worthy, I think it was 3-by-1 set. One running back. Brewer was out, extended out. I think he had someone on him. And then Xavier Worthy had someone over the top of him. And then Whittington was in the middle. And I think he had a safety, because they were playing three safeties. He had a safety probably 12 to 15 yards back. So what he do? He said, he look at me. They looked at each other. And what did he do? He tossed that ball out to Casey tossed that ball out to Whittington for like 7 or 8 yards. And I think that's why you had to play with this 3 down, 8 defenders back. You had to find, use those wide receiver screens. But we'll get into that a little bit more with the numbers.
Yeah, I think he brings a more decisive. He's more decisive in the game plan, more decisive with his throws, more decisive when he takes the ball down and runs. I just think he has more experience, and it shows with how he plays and how he sees the game downfield. But again, this is his first start because he didn't start the Colorado game. He hasn't started these 2 games, so he's the guy they're preparing for this week. So it's going to be interesting to see what he brings. But I think decision making is one of those things. And I did happen to hear on 104.9 The Fan, Rod Babers talk about, and Kevin Dunn talk about the leadership styles of Casey Thompson and how it's more in line with what this football team recently has had with a guy like Sam Ehlinger, a get-in-your-face kind of guy who's more outspoken, who's an outspoken leader. And guys in the chat are talking about, Hudson's a more reserved guy. Hudson doesn't sound confident when he speaks. You're getting totally different or totally opposite with Casey. Casey's, press review this week, he was kind of, somebody asked about losing the job. He said, I didn't lose the job. So Coach Sarkisian chose to pick somebody else then. Now I'm the guy, so I'm going to take this job and move forward. So he's very confident. He's a raw, get in your face, more outspoken leader than most. So, so I think this thing you're getting with is decisiveness and leadership at this point.
I just want to put this out real quick. Queen Bee, she actually tweeted at us today on Twitter. She put a picture of a English bulldog up there snoring. I'm not sure if Jeremy's seen that yet. She put that up there talking about the post-game show. The post-game show from last Saturday. But I know she's got 3 tickets here. For anybody watching tonight, she's got 3 tickets. It's probably going to be a really, really good time with her at the stadium. I think she was talking about towards the end zone. She wants to hang out with somebody. Just hit her up on Twitter, send her a DM. She has 2 tickets available. I want to make sure that she gets 2 people to go with her this weekend to the game. She didn't get those high dollar tickets, it looks like, that she had for the first game against Louisiana. So she was up there with the BMDs for the last one.
Nice.
I think leadership, obviously, going back to this leadership thing, I think they have to have someone that's going to come on the sideline and be that it guy, that guy that's going to be out there pumping them up and moving them. At this particular point, to have someone reserved, I don't think that you always have to have a quarterback or a leader that has to be the raw guy. But I think at this particular point, I think it'd be best for the team if they did have that. Somebody just continue to build the motivation up, because I think where it sucks at, man, I think where we're worked at is you had the defense that was put in bad positions the entire the first half and gave up in the red zone. They had a touchdown, and then they gave up 3 field goals to equal 19 or 16 points. 16. I think if you had somebody on the offensive side of the ball, like Casey Thompson said, man, hang in there. We're going to eventually get it. We're going to eventually get it. We're going to eventually get it. And then, BJ Foster goes down and gets a touchdown. I think at that particular point, you're trying to gain momentum. But if you don't have a leader that's sitting there, pushing the team through that third quarter, I think that's when it can all fall apart for you.
And I kind of got on, the player personnel stuff in the postgame show the other day. I was like, why is Jet Bush playing so early? Why is this guy playing so early? Like, why are reserve defensive linemen in the game just getting toasted? And it was because that probably Bo Davis and Jeff Choate and the defensive guys saw that they were tired. And the reason why they were tired is because we didn't play complementary football. Like you said, the halftime deficit was 16-0. They drove the ball down our throats, and we weren't able to get anything started on offense to give those defensive linemen a break, and thus it kind of fed on you. Yeah.
Again, and I think it's just over and over again, and we'll get into the defensive part of it here in a few segments. Let's talk about blaming the O-line. Let's talk about the offensive line real quick. So if you went back and looked at Pro Football Focus's numbers from a pass blocking standpoint and a run block standpoint, they actually graded out higher against Arkansas than they did Louisiana. But I want to run some numbers by you real quick. There's an actual stat on here called the TTT, which is the average time to throw on all dropbacks. I'm going to give you a couple of numbers. So you had KJ Henderson, obviously the Arkansas quarterback, had 2.39 seconds to throw the ball in a clean pocket. Spencer Rattler this last week, 2.63 seconds. Bryce Young, 2.56 seconds. And Hudson Card almost doubled them in time with 4.23 seconds. Do you think that's a decision-making issue?
I do. You're not seeing the things pre-snap that lead you to those quick, decisive throws. And once you get the ball in your hands, you're not continuing to look downfield. You're dropping your head, you're tapping the ball, and you're not getting the ball out of your hands. Like you just said, the best teams in the country. Spencer Rattler, 2.63 seconds in a clean pocket. Bryce Young for Alabama, 2.56 seconds with a clean pocket. And Hudson had the ball for 4.23 seconds. Again, he's holding on to the ball too long. And when he has a lane to run, he's not taking off. Like he's totally in between. Like he doesn't know when to tuck it and run, and he doesn't know when to let it rip. But it's definitely a pre-snap problem. Like in Steve Sarkisian's offense, you should, and the way we understand it, the way we've watched his coaching film is that everything's pre-snap. Like it tells you where to go with the ball in his RPO offense. So I don't know if it's late movement by the defense is kind of throwing him off where guys are coming down and moving back, and he's not seeing it. But yeah, definitely it's indecisiveness in my mind.
Yeah, I actually sent Jeremy a tweet this week, and I think he had read it, before I sent it to him. It's something we had kind of looked at before. And you go back to, when Hudson Card was going through the Elite 11, and he wound up finishing number 5 out of those quarterbacks that go to that, that elite quarterback showing in the summer of their senior year before they head off to college. He actually finished number 5, but one of the things they knocked him on was taking too many sacks. And I think you watch him walk into a few sacks last weekend. One particular with the nose guard. You know what I'm saying? It's like you have all the space around you because the pocket. If you look at the pocket is, I believe, seven wide, or I think it's 5 foot wide, 7 foot back is what they consider the pocket when you're talking about pocket space. And you only have 3 rushers. It's, to me, I don't know how you can walk yourself into a sack, but I think you've seen it multiple times. And I think it's just he's either got his head up, his head down, or indecisive if he wants to run the ball or throw it. But moving forward, got Casey Thompson. So we'll kind of see where it goes this week. I think, to me, and I'm just going to kind of throw that out there, I think once Casey takes his job this week, I don't think you're going to probably see him relinquish it moving forward into the season. So
yeah, I really hope he takes it and runs with it. Like you said, for the next 9 games, that we don't have to. And again, I really don't think that you have to play both at this point. Like, you've seen what one guy could do in extended time, and I see guys talking about they should have pulled him. I felt half was the time to go, to put Casey out there. Some guys are saying after the first quarter. But I think you got your guy now, and I think only bringing Hudson Card in the game would now stop that momentum. Like, let Casey run with this thing for the next 9 games and see what happens. Because if you switch them again, you can't go back to them, in my mind.
Yeah. Let's talk about a little bit about defense, because somebody brought up in the post-game show, we can talk about quarterback, probably the Casey Thompson, the Hudson Card thing. We'll probably talk about that over the next hour, but we're going to go ahead and move on to the defense. Somebody brought up 𝗟𝗞𝗘 defense and how it gives up a lot of running yards. So I wanted to go back and kind of deep dive into 𝗟𝗞𝗘's numbers a little bit. Like I said, we had someone comment the run defenses weren't very strong under PK at Washington. He's going to play a bend, don't break type of defense. Relies on stopping the offenses in the red zone. If you go back and look at our numbers currently, we've had 10 attempts in the red zone, 7 scores, 1 rushing touchdown, 2 passing touchdowns, and 4 field goals. And if you look at it currently, 30 points in the red zone is what you've given up. Out of those 10 attempts, you're looking at 30. So you're looking at average 3 points every time you get into the red zone, which is damn good. If I can hand out a field goal versus a touchdown every time, we'll take it. You know what I'm saying? Because that's a +4 every time you go down and score a touchdown. 18 points outside the red zone. So obviously those are plays bigger than 20 yards that have gotten you. So you're looking at 18 points, and some of those may be field goals, long field goals as well. Currently in the top 10 of Power 5 schools, currently sitting at 70% red zone percentage on defense, which I think moving into the rest of the season has to be a positive. We finished in 2020, we finished at about 83%. So every time that the opponent got down to the red zone, they scored 83% of the time. Currently, we're sitting at 70% of the time, and majority of those are field goals versus touchdowns.
Yeah, again, you have to be happy with that kind of numbers for red zone defense. Problem is, like I said, and I'll go back to what I thought last year, you're not playing complimentary football. Like you can't go drive after drive after drive, because 3 is better than 7, but if you're not putting up anything, then 3s add up to 16. You only got to score one touchdown in the first half. You still got 16 points, and you're winning by more than 2 scores. So, again, once you hold them to field goals, you got to go down and put something on the board. And that's where we struggled in the first half of this game, and it wore our defense out and led to us getting beat eventually 40-21.
And it might have been our guy Charles. He shows up for every show, and I appreciate him. I really do. He said PK has never been good for us to run. Go back and look. Stanford, Utah, Oregon, Bama. Stanford's going to put up a bunch of yards on you because that's what they do anyway. It's a 12 personnel. Let me I formation. Let me run the ball down your throat, and that's what we're going to do 60 times out of the 80 times that we do it. So I kind of want to give you some numbers here. Going back to averages, and we'll start with 2019. 129 yards against the rush, 222 yards per game average with the pass. 2018, you're looking at 116 yards per game with the rush, 190 yards per game with the pass. 2017, 101 yards rushing yards per game there at Washington, 197 yards per game with the pass. And in 2016, a little higher than all the rest of them, 133 yards per rush or per game for the rush, and then 183 yards per pass play. And I'll take 183 yards and 133 yards on the game, 133 yards on the ground and 88 yards in the passing game all day long. You're talking 310 total yards average. So I think he's willing to let the run get out there a little bit and make his linebackers be able to play in space. And I think that's what it comes down to. I think the runs are always probably going to get to that second level, but those linebackers have to fill gaps and have to make plays in space. And I think you're just going to see a lot of underneath coverage where guys are going to be able to catch the ball, let them get to the 20-yard line. But once you get to that 20-yard line, let's stop them from scoring a touchdown, make them kick a field goal. And I think that's how he's kept it under 20 points average over the last 10 years. Yeah,
I mean, his worst year, real quick math in public, is 351 total yards in 2019. If you give me 351 total yards, and like you said, his red zone defense is as good as it is, his rush defense really isn't a problem, I'll take that each and every week. Again, but unfortunately, this last Saturday, that wasn't the case. You got ran on for doggone 330-something yards, all we know is last week. And so what we need to find out is if we can consistently get better, because Rice probably isn't going to be the one that's going to tell you, but you got Texas Tech and then TCU and then Oklahoma right after that. Like, you've got to get better over these last, next few games as you get ready for Big 12 season.
Yeah, I just don't want to shoot down. I'm not going to go in here and shoot our staff down. I'm like, PK, who has done this consistently year after year after year, who has one of the top defenses in the country that a lot of guys would probably steal from us. You know what I'm saying? They probably couldn't go out there and get played for a damn good coach that said it's probably the best hire that you could probably have this year. That's what people think about him. So I don't want to sit here after one game against Arkansas and say, okay, we're giving up 333 yards. If you go back and look at the defense, man, for the first half, I think that's where I'm looking at it. Over time, eventually your defense is going to wear down because your offense is going 3 and out the entire game. Your thoughts, Jeremy?
Yeah, no, I said that. Like, that's why you played bad in the second half. You missed tackles in the second half. But yeah, guys aren't doing the research that you're doing. That's why they just say PK had a bad defense, because they're probably not going back and looking at the history, not looking at what he's given up over, his career at Washington. They're just associating him with a bad run defense just because they gave up 333 yards last week. But again, that's how we live. It's what have you done for me lately? This is especially with this fan base, like, there's been 3 offensive coordinators in 3 years. There's been 3 defensive coordinators in 3 years. You can't start, like you said, start looking to fire Steve Sarkisian, 𝗟𝗜𝗞𝗘 𝗦𝗧, and 𝗟𝗜𝗞𝗘 because of one performance. But at the same time, you want to see this team get consistently better, like understanding the scheme, be in the right spot, and play complementary football to where your defense doesn't get more down in the first half and they have something left in the second.
But I also don't want to use that as an excuse either.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't want to use we can't stay on the field, so our defense gets a bye every week because our offense is not staying on the field. Because I'm gonna go back to the Colorado Texas A&M game. That was a real bad situation, and that I think Haynes Key getting injured in the second the second snap of the game, and then Calzada having to come in. That defense is the only one that held that damn game together. the entire time. You're talking about 3 and outs and all kinds of other stuff. That was a flimsy ass game. So I don't want to give it as an excuse every weekend to think that just because the offense doesn't show up, that the defense, has just to lay an egg the second half. That's when your defense should be stepping up for your offense if they're not having a good game, because I think that's part of that complementary football as well.
And that was the most discouraging thing, is when you got 16-7 or 16-0 coming out of half, you go down, you punt, right? Same thing, right? We go down and punt. And then they get the football back, and BJ makes a hell of an interception, a tip ball interception to himself. Go down and score, now it's 16-7. That's the time I need my defense to bow their neck and not let them get down the field. Maybe it's time for one of those field goals because I'm still within 2 scores, but going down and getting a touchdown and run the ball down our throat, again, was unacceptable. Like you said, I'm not gonna make excuses for anyone. What I'm gonna say is it's a lot easier to do it if you have more time on the sidelines. But you're absolutely right. Like, that was the time. I never clowned them for the 16 points they gave up in the first half. I was just disappointed whenever they gave up a touchdown after we felt like we had the momentum back.
Absolutely, that's one of those ones we take that note that because I tell you, I don't do anything with that live chat that Jeremy's got going on the YouTube. All I'm doing is sitting in the room by myself and I'm writing notes down, and that's one of the ones I always write down is momentum changes. You know what I'm saying? What happens after we drop a punt? I don't know, drop a punt and then punt it 10-yard line. How does the defense step up? What did the defense do? They stepped up and they got a 3 and out in Arkansas had to kick a field goal. Same thing. What happens after BJ Foster's, interception? We go down, we score, a touchdown. Next comment is how does the defense, after we score, how do they play? And unfortunately, I think they gave up the largest pass. I think it was the largest pass reception of the game on that same drive, and wind up letting them go down there and score. Now it's 23-7. At that particular point, like we talked about a little bit on the Pokes game too, is you would have hoped that they were probably going to bring Casey Thompson in at the beginning of the second half versus letting it get out of hand at 33-7 or whatever it was, and then to try to have him come back behind, with that raucous crowd in Arkansas that night. I want to talk a little bit of Rice.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit of Rice.
We'll talk a little bit of Rice. Let's move on from Arkansas, man. I think that was rough post game. Wanted to get it out of here. Talk a little bit about obviously the quarterback situation. Talk a little bit about defense. What do they have returning? They got 9 starters on offense, 10 starters on defense, and they played a lot of snaps. That defense currently, if you're looking at their leaders, on offense, we'll go offense first. Quarterback, you have McCaffrey, younger brother of Christian McCaffrey. Yeah, I think he was a transfer out of Colorado, if I'm not mistaken. I think he actually played at Colorado last year when we played him in the Alamo Bowl, if I'm not mistaken. 14 out of 29, 161 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. Rushing leader is Griffin, 32 carries, 121 yards. And then Petrie, the third, is 4 receptions for 97 yards, 1 touchdown. Currently 103 yards per game is where they're at as far as rushing, and then 156 yards per game. They've given up 5 sacks and aren't doing so good in the red zone. Kind of where we're doing really well is they're currently 3 for 7 in the red zone from the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, so it's a team that's not as talented as you. I mean, talk about the offensive side. So again, we need to see our defensive front make plays. We need to see our defensive backs lock down their receivers because they're not a very good offensive football team. But again, we're not going to make the mistake of discounting anyone, especially on this channel. So they're going to come into Austin ready to play ball. They're a bunch of smart kids. Rice is a very pristine university as far as academics, so they're smart kids. But yeah, we just got to go out there and put pressure on the quarterback, McCaffrey, and get him rattled and then stop the run. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, Nebraska, McCaffrey was the backup quarterback at Nebraska and then transferred to Rice. Hey, I appreciate that, Lendo7448. Appreciate you, man. BJ's interception was incredible, but the receiver was behind him, 1 foot less vertical, and it's TD. That's in any game. Your job is to play the ball as you see it. And BJ did what he was supposed to do. He had I don't give a damn, man. BJ played a hell of a game on Saturday. Anthony Cook, the same thing. These guys from that 2018 class, for some reason, have not developed over the last 3 years under the other coaching staffs. They love them. They love them. And I think they would have loved them in 2018 if they'd had an opportunity to develop these guys coming out of high school. So definitely excited where BJ Foster and Anthony Cook are going. Like Jeremy said, I don't want to take any team for granted anymore. I've decided I didn't even put on our notes today that we're going to make projections on the game. That's the way I feel. We'll probably go back to that next week. I want to get through Rice. Let's get through Rice, then get to Texas Tech, and we'll probably go through projections. I didn't even put them on here, so no takes on this pregame show tonight. This guy right here said, Andy Arena, what is Clint talking about? BJ got abused last week. Please, Andy, let us know what your comments are, because I definitely didn't see that. He was actually the highest rated person, Pro Football Focus. He had 3 plays back to back that probably kept us in the game a lot longer than what we should have been in the game. So please explain that to me, Andy Arena. Thank you. All right, on to Rice defense. 10 returning starters, played lots of snaps. Like I said, allowed less than 20 points in the 2020 campaign. Some of the things you're probably going to expect from them. Expect coverage changes, man, zone, combination thereof in multiple fronts. They're going to play even and odd fronts. Probably going to see a lot of run blitzes. If they see what worked for Arkansas, it wouldn't surprise me if you don't see some stunts, you don't see some run blitzes to slow down Bijan in that running back game. That's what I would do if I'm Rice. I'm a defensive coordinator. They know that you're going to run Bijan. You try to run Bijan a lot. I'm probably going to do a lot of stunning and a lot of run blitz as well. Through 2 games, they've given up 194 yards rushing and 188 yards passing. So obviously these teams are taking an opportunity to run on them. Played Arkansas a lot better than we did in the first half a couple of weeks ago. I think they were tied 17-17 at the half. And then after the half, Arkansas kind of ran through them, and the game wasn't very close at the end of that one.
I'm excited that Casey's going to see a team that does have a lot of coverages and a lot of fronts that they're going to throw at him, because I'm interested to see how our offensive game plan changes with a different quarterback under center. Are we going to have, like folks are talking about, him airing the ball out like he did against Cavante Dixon in the Alamo Bowl? Is he going to, what is the game plan differences for Casey going against this Rice defense? But yeah, like you said, they played better against Arkansas than we did in the first half. We're not going to disrespect anybody. Just need to go out there and play ball. But yeah, I'm excited to see what the difference is as far as the scheme with Casey Thompson as a quarterback against this Rice defense. But yeah, that's 10 returning starters who played a lot of snaps. Again, they're experienced and they're smart, and they're going to throw a lot of things at him. And I'm sure he's going to be ready to go.
I think it's
the rest of the team is.
But I think it's important that you have a team that's going to do that. I would hate for, go back a couple of years and look at the Rice teams that you played, and there were probably a blowout by the second quarter. That's where you wanted to be at. But I definitely want, after you took that loss in Arkansas, I definitely, with Casey coming in, you definitely want, guys, on the other side of the ball that are experienced, that have time playing, that played a lot of snaps, that are going to give you multiple looks. Because you want to be able to fix those things you need to with a new quarterback moving into Big 12 play, which will be the following weekend, I think at 11 o'clock against Texas Tech. And then obviously probably the bigger game after Texas Tech, we don't want to look too far, is that TCU, that road game at TCU is probably going to be the one that's going to tell you how your season's going to wind up going. If I was to look at it now, because you got Texas Tech at home, next road game will be at TCU, which is a bad place to be. And let me see here. On to what we want to see. What do you want to see, man, from the team this weekend, man, against Rice?
Like you said, the offensive line didn't grade out again for a second straight week post-mortem as bad as we thought they did. But again, I still need them to dominate. I need them to move people off the ball, especially in an odd man front, to knock the defensive lineman back into the second level. I need to see, like you said, that Hudson had 4.23 seconds. I need to see our quarterback take advantage of those 4.23 seconds and make the right read and make the right throw. But that's the first 2 things that I want to see right off the jump from the offensive side of football.
Yeah, to me, it's about starting fast. If we're going to have this moniker, all gas, no brakes, which at this particular point, it felt like the brakes have been, hit. We pulled the emergency brake at this particular point. I want to see start fast. I don't care if it's drive down the field and get a field goal. We need to put points on the board before our opponents do. And for some reason, not just this coaching staff, but the coaching staffs moving forward over the last, damn near 5, 6, 7 years, it felt like we've always played from behind in the first quarter. I need to see that this coaching staff can put together a set of plays that's going to have us go down the field and drive and score before our opponents do. That's the first thing I want to see against Rice. Please, Lord, let not Rice score before us. I probably won't be able to handle it. Have to take a double dose of blood pressure medication.
So you're not a guy that's going to defer to the second half. You want the ball to go down and score.
Go down and score, man. Go down. I got to. At this particular point, we have to. I feel like we're always playing from behind, and definitely don't want to play from behind. Play discipline, play physical. I think you have to play discipline. Too many false starts, holding penalties. I think it starts with playing discipline, but at the same time, play physical. There's no reason that Rice should out-physical either one of our offense or defensive lines this week. If Steve Sarkisian is saying, hey, these 5 guys are going to play together and we want them to meld and we want them to continue to play together, these 5 guys got to be able to play together well. And I think this is a game. If you're going to use this as an opportunity for a scrimmage, let's use it, get these guys to meld, figure out what we do really, really well from an offensive line standpoint, and just focus on that moving forward. With saying that, though, I want these young guys to be able to play on the offensive line as well, because I really want to see Johnson, Hayden Connor, Andre Carrick. I think these guys need to have an opportunity to play as well, just so that we can get some – Kyle Flood can see him in action on game day.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just trying to find a comment earlier because I want to talk about garbage time. I know our buddy Greg Lang earlier up in the chat was talking about, Hudson, because I said, Hudson doesn't need to play. All that can do is bring more talk. If Casey's doing the job, just leave him out there and let him do his job. And Greg was talking about garbage time, needing to develop Hudson in garbage time. I think this is probably the last game you're going to have such thing as garbage time, as I currently see it. I hope not. I hope we're able to beat teams by 2 or 3 touchdowns when Big 12 play begins. But this may be that opportunity to see Hayden Connor, to see Tyler Johnson, to see Isaiah Hookfin, to see those guys, across the offensive line that may have an opportunity to spell or take somebody's job at this point. But like you said, I wanted some jobs to get taken on Saturday. Like you said, going back and looking through the analysis, probably not necessarily the case. But at the same time, I want to see some of these young offensive linemen come in here and perform, especially those guys we've heard about, like Andre Carrick, Tyler Johnson, Isaiah Hookfin, and then Hayden Connor.
Yeah. Play 4 quarters. You're talking about having guys, be able to rotate out this game. I think you need to play 4 quarters. Play 4 quarters strong. There's no reason that your second team shouldn't be able to come in and do the same thing that your first team is doing against this team this weekend. And I'm not saying they're not a good team, but from a talent standpoint, there's no way that we should not play 4 quarters this weekend and put up a 4-quarter score. And what I mean by that, there's no way that we can't go up into the 40s, and there's no way that we can't keep them under 10 points, because we shouldn't allow them to me, that garbage time points and all that other stuff, it's got to go away this weekend. You got to get your guys back in focus before Big 12 starts, and I think that's the way you do it. And plus, they're going to be focused. I have no doubt the team's going to show up on Saturday ready to play. Yeah, I have no doubt they're going to be ready to play.
To me, it's score doesn't mean as much as performance. Like, again, if you're not going to be off the ball, and I want to see how you do it. How do you get to 40-10? Is it big? Because we haven't seen a whole lot of big explosive plays in my memory, that I would have thought we would have had under the Sarkisian, offense. Like, I want to see some explosive plays. I want to see Bijan bust runs like did against Kansas State and Colorado in the year last year. And again, like you said, just how do we get to 40-10? Because I agree with you. Like, to hold them under 10 is what we should be able to do. But again, and get over 40 is what we should be able to do. But at the same time, I need to see the performance. I need to see the play.
Charles brings up here, Atlanta, we're defensive line getting no push, so the linebackers aren't free to scrape or come downhill. First game, we didn't have a problem with that. That's why you had ďMarvion Overshown that had 13 tackles, and you had Brockmeyer had 10 tackles. And Anthony Cook had a whole bunch of tackles, because your second guys, and again, this is the way Pete Kwiatkowski's defense is going to work, is letting these guys eat these blocks and allow your linebackers, your athletic linebackers, to be able to move in space and make plays. We didn't have that problem against Louisiana. Against Arkansas, ďMarvion Overshown, on some plays, if you go back and look at it, looked like he had fallen asleep at the wheel, because he wasn't prepared. Like at the snap, he wasn't prepared or didn't know where to go moving forward. And so I think I don't think it's a scheme issue versus a player issue. Like, honestly, I don't think they played the way they should have played on Saturday from probably what they talk about going back to their training all the time. They should have, we trained them specifically on what they were going to see, and somehow, some way on Saturday they forgot what they were supposed to do. And I think got to get away from that. So if you're teaching something, these players need to know it. If they don't know it, get the next guy in there that does know it.
Yeah, trust your training is what they always say. Yep. They got to trust your training.
And then I front, absolutely. I would love to see these guys get, obviously some, TFLs and some sacks. We haven't seen enough sacks. And I think this happens every year. We're waiting for these sacks. We're a split second short of getting the sack, but we never get them. Definitely want to put some TFLs and sacks on the board this weekend. And then push from the offensive line, 0 sacks from our offensive line this weekend. We really need to have a clean game moving forward. Like I said before, get some of these younger guys in there to play some snaps on the offensive line as well.
Yeah, a lot of comments on the offensive line. I just want to talk about this. That Terry, that was kind of the difference in what I saw in the game on Saturday was, like Clint said, their linemen were able to get on our backers, where in the first game against Louisiana, they didn't. Our defensive line were able to hold down the linemen at the line of scrimmage to allow those guys to scrape and get to where they needed to get to make a tackle on a ball carrier. It just seemed like this week that nobody could get off a block. And consequently, what we felt like in the run game for Texas versus Arkansas was completely different. Like they were in gaps with a 3-man front, and their linebackers were getting into holes and knocking Bijan down for negative gains and short yardage carries. So what they were able to execute, that's what it came down to, is our rush defense against their rush offense, and our rush offense against their rush defense. They were able to block our guys with what they had, and our guys weren't able to block them with what we had.
Yeah, you see this too. Play scared, plain and simple. You can see it. You can see the deer in the headlights look. I'm not beating him up, but this is a Hudson Card issue. Deer in the headlights, 70,000 to 80,000 fans in the middle of Fayetteville, Arkansas, in the middle of the night on ESPN. I felt like instead of running north and south, you run east and west, and the reason you do it is because you don't know what to do. You start playing scared. Like, what is the next thing I'm supposed to do? And then it gets beyond the ears, man, into the head. So I think you're right about that. Do I think the entire team played like that? Absolutely not. I think if you go back and you look at the defense, I think our defense is the defense that played in the first half. I think if our defense can consistently play like they did in the first half, we're going to be a good team. If we can get our offense to go the same way we needed our defense to play. Because there's nothing wrong that you're talking about. They were put behind the chains, 3 times? I think 3 and outs, and you're talking about you're giving a team at home 16 points after 5 trips into the red zone. I'll take that all day, every day. The problem is that you got to get your offense to consistently play the same way that your defense is playing at the same time. And you didn't see that. Right. So I think what our defense looks like is what we look like in the first half, because you go back and look at those first 3 drives, Arkansas couldn't do anything. We stopped them multiple drives behind, hitting the running backs behind the line. But eventually, again, your offense has to catch up and play football too. Yeah, if they're not playing football, go ahead, Jeremy.
We were talking about this. Complementary football is necessary. And I don't know that they played scared, but I guarantee you they played tight. When you get down 16-0 and you're going into somebody's house, an SEC opponent, when you're going to that conference, and you're number 15 ranked team in the country, you spot them 16 points in the first half, I think you start to play tight. And your heart rate gets a little bit up because you're anxious to get back in the football game, and you're already worn out because, like you said, you didn't play complementary football in the first half, so your defense is kind of, wasted. So, yeah, I don't know if they were scared, but they were definitely tight to start the ball game. And in moments, like you said, I think Hudson, had that deer in the headlights look like, where do I go now?
So Jeff S., Arkansas defense having their way with our O-line had more of an impact on Card than the environment. I think it's a combination of. But I want you, if you hadn't had an opportunity to actually go back and watch the game again, I want you to slow it down. And I can tell you, I've watched the offensive plays 3 times this week. 3 times. I actually got up Monday. I watched them Monday night. watched it Tuesday night, and then I got up Wednesday morning because I really wanted to see what this offensive looked like. You had 3 rushers. You had 3 rushers against 5 linemen. The pocket, if you weren't here for the beginning of the show, he had 4.32 seconds in a clean pocket, average. Let me go back and tell you what some of the other seconds were for some of the other quarterbacks around the country. KJ Henderson, guy we played against in Arkansas. Obviously, we had some kind of pressure because he only had 2.3 seconds. 2.3. Spencer Rattler, 2.63 seconds. Bryce Young, playing probably with the best offensive line, best team in the country, 2.56 seconds. Hudson Card had 4.23 seconds per drop back per play. So I don't know. I think it was a combination of. I think he got skittish feet. If I'm going to talk about the offensive line, I'm going to talk about the offensive line from a run block standpoint, because there's no reason that Bijan should have 5 yards and then 59 yards or 55 yards after contact to get the rest of his yards.
Yeah.
That's the problem to me.
It's working too hard.
It's outside zone all day long. I kept telling Jeremy, outside zone on the right side works. Outside zone on the outside works. Run behind 𝗟𝗚𝗓𝗕𝗘 and Kerstetter, an outside zone, and I promise you this, Bijan just looks more comfortable when he does that. But from an offensive line standpoint, to me, it was a run block when you're talking about offensive line. Yeah, do they have some stuff to clean up on the pass on the pass block? Absolutely. But against a three-man front, go back and look at it. He was a little shaky. There were some opportunities for some missed underneath stuff that he didn't get. You reading some comments here?
Yeah. Not anything I want to grab though.
Yeah, Kendrick Blanton here. I just agree with Jeff. He looked overwhelmed by the entire and by the environment. He did. When you got the best running back in the nation that's sitting out in the flats, I'm looking to check down every time. If I can't find something within the first half a damn second, I'm probably looking for Bijan Robinson to toss it to him. Until they can stop it, because again, they're dropping 8. So how many guys they got around the line to stop Bijan within, the first 7 or 8 yards? He's probably going to make the first guy miss anyway. Question here: How does Card do with great blocking versus Arkansas? I don't know. Because you didn't from a run block standpoint. You know what I'm saying? From a run block standpoint, you want to get the ball. You want to get the run started. So you have to get these 8 guys that are sitting back there in coverage to have to come down. But you didn't have to get them to come down, because the 5 guys, the 3 down linemen and the 2 linebackers were eating your lunch in the run game all night long. So really, you couldn't get a run game started, which allowed those guys to drop 8 in coverage all night long. So it'd be hard to tell how you would do if we did have great blocking.
You're absolutely right. Like we talk about it every show. Like you establish the run to set up the pass. If you're able to run the football, then that makes it easier to throw. You can't play clog and cover. You can't drop 8 guys in coverage. And you don't have the ability to play all these exotic plays they were playing on defense, because you got to have 8 guys in the box to stop Bijan. Like that again. If you're disappointed in the offensive line, you need to be disappointed in the run blocking. Like Clint said over and over again at this point, like the pass blocking wasn't an issue, which is opposite of what we thought was going to be the problem coming in this year. We felt like we had a good run blocking offensive line. We had to shore up our pass rush, but yeah, that's just the same.
Tim B said, have y'all adjusted your orange tinted glasses yet? I told y'all Card would be the starter weeks ago, and y'all laughed at me. I said that breaking new starters hard, and y'all weren't hearing it. I can tell you that me and Jeremy were Casey Thompson guys when we begin the season. That's one. Number 2, we're always going to support whoever the coach puts out there. I'm not going to be like, okay, he put Hudson Card out there, I'm not going to watch the games anymore. Hell no, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to root for whatever quarterback is playing that game, because I'm a winner and I want to win. So I'm not sure what that comment means, Tim B, or whose channel you're watching. But I can tell you, we're Casey Thompson guys. We believe Casey Thompson probably should have started from the beginning of the year. Steve Sarkisian's quarterback whisperer. He's a quarterback guy. So if Steve Sarkisian said Hudson Card's his guy and he fits his scheme the best, then hey, we're running with Hudson Card until he's replaced by which was probably 1B. And it's our guy. Let me see if I can find it here. Cody Phillips said on Twitter, there's a reason that Sark said he's starter this week. in parentheses. I believe that Cody Phillips said that on Twitter, and he can tell me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's why he put in parentheses this week, because there was an opportunity that if he didn't like what he liked in Hudson Card, that he was going to make that switch to Casey Thompson. He put it like that every week, just so he could do that.
Yeah, I just would wonder what channel he's watching, because like we said, we've been out front. You know, we thought Casey was going to be the starter in the spring, thought Casey was going to be the starter in the fall. We were a bit surprised at the end of fall camp when they said they were naming Hudson. But like you said, we support the guy who's behind the center, you know, taking snaps at the University of Texas. And he played well. I say well. He managed the football team against Louisiana. And then, again, you saw Casey come in against Louisiana and score touchdowns. He didn't play very well in the first half against Arkansas. You saw Casey come in late in the third quarter and drive down the team to get points. So that's where we're at. Again, we'll support Casey Thompson at this point. Again, we thought he was the best man for the job, but we weren't there during fall practice and get to see them, you know, play down in, down out. But we'll see what happens.
Cody Phillips said, "Yep, I seen it on Twitter." A couple of shout outs, man, to probably I liked more tweets from Big Crizzle. I'm not sure who that guy is, man. I think he's some kind of producer there in the Austin area on Twitter. I've probably given him more likes this week on Twitter. So shout out to Big Crizzle. And then we had a CW3 that's currently stationed, I think, in Fort Benning with the Ranger Training Ranger Training Brigade, right? He's an aviator. If he's listening to us tonight, sent Jeremy a really, really, really nice email that said he listens to us. He was listening to us up in I think at Fort Lewis. And he sent Jeremy a really, really, really nice email. I actually showed it to my wife. So we appreciate you listening to us, and definitely thank you for that. And thank you for your service as well.
Yes, it's awesome. It's very awesome.
I'm trying to just move on here.
Because I don't think that's us, man. Like we've always been one of those guys who says we don't have intel, and so we would never laugh at somebody's opinion that somebody was going to start. Like
absolutely not. So, do you think? I'm just kind of off top question here. Offensive line. Do you think that there's a better 5 players than what we're playing right now? Do you go back to the Colorado game?
I do. But I really thought Christian Jones was going to be the bell cow of this offensive line. But the guy that's currently behind him on the depth chart, Andre Carrick, played really, really well in the last 2 games of last season. I think Tyler Johnson could play as well as Denzel Okafor. I think Jake Majors is your center. I think Junior Angulau is going to continue to be that right side of the offensive line along with Derek Kerstetter. I think there's a couple of positions where they could probably be as good as or could take that job, but I haven't had an opportunity to see him play this year. I don't know why the coaches picked them over the guys that we're talking about, but
I just go back to, again, I went back. Again, I watched a lot of film this week. It was either early in the morning or late at night, and I actually went back and watched that Colorado game because I wanted to go back and watch Casey Thompson. That's what I was actually watching it for, because I want to go back and watch Casey Thompson and see, what we're moving forward with. You have a tendency to watch the guys that get the job. So I wanted to kind of go back and watch him to see what, obviously Tom Herman was running with him, a lot of RPO stuff. It's a lot of RPO stuff. You go back and look at it, it's a lot of run pass option. I think you're going to see Sarkisian, who's not a run quarterback type of guy. If he said he's going to put, Casey in a position where he feels comfortable. And I think he's going to do a lot of run pass option stuff. But I looked at the offensive line, man, and I'm telling you that Johnson and Carrick, I got to figure out where they're at right now. And I don't know if Kyle Flood is learning a different type of protection or a different type of blocking, or is it a scheme thing? Is it a between the ears thing? But I got to see these guys this weekend against Rice, with a combination of new guys to see if it's something we need to do moving forward.
And it does matter. Continuity matters, and playing with the guy next to you matters. And so, Terry, this could be a thing. Jones may be suffering from having Okafor beside him, doesn't trust him in the pass blocking game. I don't know. But Carrick needs to be a tackle, and I think Derek Kerstetter could play guard. Derek Kerstetter could play a position on this offensive line. I don't want him to play center. I think he's more beneficial out. I think he's more beneficial as a tackle. I would hate to move him into guard, but if you have to, he's probably the most versatile player on this offensive line. But you're absolutely right. Like there's certain positions on this offensive line that you trust to play well every week, and then there's others that you'd like to see somebody get some snaps behind him to see if the guy behind him's better.
Yeah, I think it's one of these things. It's like we got to find some guys that are ferocious, man. Like mad, angry. That's where you got to play as an offensive lineman, or defensive line is to play angry. And I just don't know if all of our guys got that. And you're telling me that you've been around for 6 years. These 6-year guys been there for a long time. If we're not where we should have been at 3 or 4, can we get any better at 6? Or do moving forward, try to play these guys that you have some tape on? But I think it's important this weekend to see if it's an opportunity to get these guys in and see if they play and put some film on tape. See how they play outside of practice.
Yeah, I'd love to have these guys in the program, but again, they're going to have to see improvement by this offensive line, this run game. Steve Sarkisian's offense, like these guys are top of the line offensive line. In order to get him here this year, you're gonna have to start playing a little bit better on the offensive line. Just my thoughts.
Yeah, 𝗟𝗚𝗞𝗘, man, he go back and watch that game. He had a lot of fun against that Arkansas line quite a few times. He was usually man on man with somebody a lot of times from that right guard position. But yeah, he's nasty. He is nasty. Him and Kerstetter on that side of the ball play really, really well together. They got really high grades. 𝗟𝗚𝗞𝗘 actually 8.2 on Pro Football Focus. He was the highest graded person on the entire team. 𝗟𝗚𝗞𝗘 was. So
maybe in my mind, and I'm not proposing this, but if you feel like you got 2 strong guys on the right side and you don't have as strong guys on the left, would you consider moving? Because he has played left guard before. Moving Junior 𝗟𝗚𝗞𝗘 over there with Christian Jones and moving Okafor over there beside Kerstetter, or a combination of both. I'm not sure that's an answer, but I would like to see both sides of my line solidified versus having a weak side and a really good side. But
how long do you think it'll expect to take Flood to get the offensive line together? I think he's trying to piece again. What he's looking for in offensive line is different than what I think the past 2 offensive line coaches were looking for in offensive linemen. From a athletic and a size, they're 2 different types of linemen. So I think trying to get these guys that you didn't recruit to want to play the way you are, where you're shuffle, shoulder, and then move to the next level. I don't think these guys were recruited to be able to do the shuffle, shoulder move like he's teaching. But I think over time he's going to have to find those guys that he currently has on a roster or bring in transfers that he knows can do what he's looking for. So I think offensive line is probably going to be the hardest. It's probably going to be the last. I hate to say it, but the last position to shore up from a football standpoint, just because they have to be able to gel and meld together.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I'll be able to watch a lot more of the game on the game because I probably won't be hosting that chat this weekend, but we'll see. We'll see. But yeah. I definitely are going to be looking because guys are saying Okafor needs to not move to the right side but to the bench. So definitely need to spend more time watching the offensive line this weekend.
𝗟𝗚𝗞𝗘 Gonzalez, this is where everybody wants to be at heading into OU weekend. Hopefully we can get to 4-1 heading into OU weekend. We're all hoping to be there. One game at a time. Let's get through Rice, Texas Tech, TCU in Fort Worth, and then we'll hopefully be 4-1 when we get to Oklahoma.
This is a good point, Glenn. Like we talked about this in the spring. Really no excuse for the O-line. We went for 7 linebacker prospects out of the portal. If you know what you wanted, you should have planned for this preseason. I absolutely agree with you because I think we brought that up more than once. Like we weren't sure what the offensive line had, and we felt like that was a position of need along with linebacker. And maybe you could have taken 5 linebackers, 2 offensive linemen, or 4 linebackers, 3 offensive linemen. But yeah, that's how it worked. But yeah, this kid is nasty. Like Cole Hudson makes kids do backflips. He's nasty up at Frisco. So yeah, we need those guys in this in this program. Guys like Clint's talking about with 𝗟𝗚𝗓𝗦𝗧, like get to the second level and destroy people. Yeah, Cole Hudson's pretty nasty. Like I said, I've seen him make kids do backflips off the defensive line.
Same thing with Connor. And I think that's what you have to move forward. Especially taking a lot of shit from SEC fans this week. Was pretty rough too, man. I'm like trying to pick up blitzing linebackers on our comments this week after that post-game show was kind of fun. So that's what you need to be. I can tell you, me and Jeremy are going to have to prepare ourselves for going to the SEC if we're going to keep this show around. Because I can tell you the SEC fans are definitely different than the Big 12 fans. Big 12 fans, they rarely ever came into your comments after a loss. We probably, out of the 8,500 views we had on our pregame, our postgame, I would probably say that half of those were probably Arkansas fans. All right.
I popped this up here, but if you got something else you want to talk about.
No, I think it was good to get back to this. It's been a rough week for both me and you from a work standpoint. So trying to get in here on Thursday night and talk a little bit about this game, talk a little bit about the quarterback situation, and talk a little bit about the defense. It's something we got to do, but definitely excited about this game this weekend. Got a 7:00 start there in DKR. I think it's on the Longhorn Network this weekend. More to follow if we're going to do a live game chat this weekend. I'll let Jeremy decide if he wants to do that or not. Sometimes it's hard for him to kind of go through those comments, and at the same time be, watching the game the way he wants to watch the game. That's why I've already told him that I'm not going to do it. Y'all please hit that like button. We'd appreciate it. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. You can find us on Facebook at Texas Football Talk, on Instagram at Texas Football Talk, and on Twitter at TX Football Talk. And we will actually have this on, I think we're going to use this one, will be on our podcast this week, on the Texas Football Talk podcast. You can find that as part of the Pigskin Podcast Network. And you can find it on any really platforms. So we appreciate you listening as always. And we got a $4.99 super chat here. Hook 'em, good content as always. We tried to put out as much content as we can during the week, but we appreciate you, 𝗟𝗚𝗞𝗘, for that $4.99 super chat. Thank you as always. So y'all have a wonderful rest of your evening. We'll see you on Saturday, and hook 'em.
Hook 'em.